record.
Yay!
Okay,
Is it happening?
I don't know, it might tell us.
So for whatever reason, it's not showing you.
It says recording.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we
Okay.
go. Yes.
I'm waiting for that voice. Recording is
That's-
started.
Maybe
And you don't get a habit.
Zoom doesn't do that, I don't. Okay, welcome to Strategies for Homeschools, Strategies for Success, our first parent workshop of the year. And I'm Beth Taube because I don't know everybody, so I'm one of the advisory teachers. My part of the presentation is going to talk about pacing. I threw a couple other things in that I thought might be helpful because we're at the beginning of the school year and it's just kind of a good time to look at everything. So one of the first things to do at the beginning of the year is to, oops, you know what, we're gonna share my screen.
We had problems with that cursor before. It always was right.
Oh, there it is to map out your year. So either by using a wall calendar like Holly has behind her desk, or getting one of those student planners or some kind of academic planner that shows the whole year at a glance. And then go through your calendar, like even the teachers here do. We know what days we have meetings, we know when there's holidays, and put it all on your calendar. And as a homeschool family, you can plan, you know, when do you have trips planned? When do you plan on taking breaks? When are there certain events, special events happening that you want to take time off for? So put all of that on your calendar first. And after that, oh, another thing for calendar I didn't put on the handout was not just wall calendars or planners that you buy at the store, but the one that I'm showing here was from Teachers Pay Teachers. It has, I don't know how many hundreds of pages that you can go through that have everything to build your plan for the year. So I'm going to show some of the examples. I thought this page was helpful just because with Raven, there's certain homeschool requirements. And I don't know if I can make that bigger. Do you guys know if I can make this bigger?
It looks okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh, yeah.
no, I like that better.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So some of the things that would be important on that would be, do we need to track things? What subjects are required? You have to have language arts and math. Do I need to notify anyone? Well, certainly, you know, the advisory teacher. Do you need to turn in lesson plans? Not necessarily. Testing, we do that. And do I need to save samples of work? Yes. And then any other information that's needed, you know, the monthly contacts, other requirements that Raven has. What's that?
Pre-approval.
Pre-approvals for lessons and tutoring, those might be notes that you would put in there also. So then after mapping out your year, the next thing you're gonna do is map your curriculum. And so the best way that I found to do that, like when I was in the classroom or just looking at your curriculum. You have your curriculum and you look at how many lessons are there, how many units, and then divide it into fourths because we have 4 quarters in the year. And so how many lessons need to be done each quarter to be on track? And then you can plug that in. That's what I'm talking about, doesn't match this, it's just like planning your curriculum.
And what I always tell families, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Oh, yeah, please.
I always use the example of 100 lessons, which you will never have, but it's easier to divide by 4. So by quarter 1, which is October 15th, I would like you to have completed lessons 1 through 25. If you complete lessons 1 through 23, I'm fine. If you complete lessons 1 through 27, that's even better. If you, and you know, it's a range, a target is 25, but you can be plus or minus. If you complete lessons 1 through 5, I'm very alarmed. and we will have a discussion. And it's always good when you do your progress summaries, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, I apologize, that you say how many lessons you did and the total number, because there are so many different curriculums out there. As bright as we are as advisory teachers, we have not memorized how many lessons, how many weeks are in each curriculum. So sorry, I
Oh, no,
went off on
that
a
was helpful.
tangent there, but.
And one of the things that I liked about this planner, here's an example of a language arts page. You can map out your whole year. And you don't have to be specific, but you could write, let's say you start in September. September language arts lessons 1 through 5. October language arts lessons 6 through 10. And just start kind of plotting it generally on these pages. This planner has pages like this for every single subject. And then this gives you room to, well, maybe you do learning in July, or maybe you don't do learning in July.
It's also a good place to put themes or holidays, especially for the
Mhm.
younger grades. So, you look at it and September, back to school theme or whatever, October's Halloween pumpkins, November's Thanksgiving, December's Christmas or whatever holidays, and then January's snowmen, or, February's Valentine's. It's just a thing to do with little kids especially.
Yeah, well, and then because that could lead to like, what kind of art projects are you gonna do if they have art on their ILP?
Or reading, yeah, literature
Or
too.
books,
There's
so
so many
it'll jog your
books
mind
that-
about
yeah.
what kind of books.
There's beautiful, wonderful books that very much are thematic towards the seasons or the holidays or the months of the year. Again, my background is elementary.
So then, after you're able to map out your curriculum for the year in a minute, but not yet, I'll show you kind of how to do it by month or by week. But after you map out your curriculum, then map out your days. Come up with a schedule. Are you going to have a 4-day school week, a 5-day school week? What's your day going to look like? And map out things, not just your lessons, but okay, we wake up at 7 o'clock. What do we do when we wake up? We get dressed, we have breakfast, we brush our teeth. Put all of that stuff on, especially for the little kids. And well, even your older ones, that's a good thing for them to learn.
Visual schedules are very helpful for kids. It's less to argue if it's written down and stated. It's like a contrast. Oh, what's the schedule say? It's not what mom says. What's the schedule say? What should we be doing now? And it's a good way to kind of avoid some of that.
Yeah, and they can even build their own schedule, like art project or filling out this schedule themselves, and kind of gives them a little bit of ownership. Okay, well, I take my lunch break at noon and then I want to have some outdoor time.
And frequent breaks.
Yeah.
For frequent breaks is good.
Yeah,
Call them brain breaks, exercise breaks, movement breaks, whatever.
so
But it's
each
very healthy.
each student can have their own schedule, but I liked this. Also had templates like 3 across. I think it went all the way to 5 across, so that as teacher, you can keep track of all their schedules, especially if they're different, and help keep them on track. Okay, from scheduling your day, then I end up with tracking, and reflecting. I would recommend even doing attendance daily, because you could get to the end of the quarter and think about, how much time, how many days did we actually spend doing that? And it could be a fun activity for the kids too, to put like a little sticker to take their own attendance. A little attendance chart each day. And a grade tracker will be really helpful when it comes to progress reporting time, because all you have to do is look at the grade tracker and not flip through all the books and look for pages. An assignment tracker too, as they're doing things. Any field trips that you participated in events, because you're gonna wanna put that on the progress report, and it's terrible to get to progress report day. It's like, oh, well, let's see, I remember the whale watching one, because that was really big. But, you know, did you go to the fire station? Did you go to tide pooling? And those are all things that can go on the progress report.
And our next workshop is on too. Yeah, yeah.
As a lead-in.
I really liked this one, a book tracker with like little stars, you can rate it, so the students, you know, books that you're reading. Isn't that neat? I love this one.
We should do that with Battle of the Books. As
Yeah.
the kids are finishing the book.
Yeah, rate them. And then again, these are books that you could list on progress report, and, you know, if you're seeing a certain author that they're really enjoying, you know, it's like, that's a note that you can put on the progress report. We read these books by this author and Joey really enjoyed them. Okay, wow. Questions, comments? Too much? Okay. Okay,
And we'll also have Q&A at the end too. It's a lot to take in. We're shooting a lot of stuff at you, but just know that there'll be time for that too.
I think right now, because I'm not in the classroom, things, I just have one of these kind of little planners to keep track.
I do the wall calendar. I love being able to be on the phone and just look up and say, well, then I do my phone calendar too for more of the day-to-day stuff, but the big stuff goes on the wall calendar.
Yeah.
So I know if I'm physically not here, if I'm traveling, if I've got an in-service, that I can look at a glance, say, oh no, I'm not gonna be here the week of February 3rd. That's the special education conference in Anchorage. And, you know, somebody's just saying, well, are you available here? And I'm a special education teacher, so I have to do those meetings, so those go on the big calendar, so again, I can look at a glance to know when those are. But that's my style.
Yeah.
And then the phone is, I live and breathe with, every day, and oftentimes first thing in the morning when I'm still at home, I'll look and see, oh, what's coming up today? And if it's a super busy day, I write it on a little sticky and stick it next to it, just so I don't miss it. So.
Thank you. Am I next?
I thought you were,
Oh, okay.
I was convinced.
Okay.
but I can go in the middle. if
Any
you like.
questions for Joan? Or Beth?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Liz Agnew and I'm new to Raven. Homeschool started in July, but I taught with the junior school district for a really long time. So I came here, so thank you for having me. I'm gonna put up this. Okay. So I'm gonna talk about some free or low-cost instructional resources. There's a 4-page handout. Holly said she's also gonna email this to you.
Anything that we put up here probably had, we have a folder. And so,
So, yeah, so then you can click on the hyperlinks in this document and have it as a resource for you. So this was a document that was created 2 years ago, and then I added to it. It was 2 pages. Yay, there is a lot out there. And not all of it is quality, and I did want to mention on this list, there are some things I wouldn't necessarily use. Like anything with advertisements, like ABCYA, there are some fun games on there that they have ads. And I wouldn't have used that in my classroom, but it's up to you, of course, as the parent teacher, if you would allow that. I did want to talk to you about the resources that have an asterisk by it and then highlight 5 of my top favorites. The ones with an asterisk, Raven will pay for the licenses and set up a student account for you. They do cost Raven some money. So if you do sign up, please use them. Some of them may not be necessarily appropriate for your child either, like the Lexia Core is meant as an intervention program. So if your child is struggling with reading, that would be a good resource for them. But if they are not, struggling in reading, it may not be a good resource for them.
Then maybe they could do accelerated.
Yeah.
Yeah, accelerated reader would be a good option for that. So the asterisks are accelerated reader, Adobe Creative Suite, which is a software license. iExcel was used really a lot with the Juneau School District. Parents were really happy with that as a homework option. LexiaCore, Microsoft Office is a software, and then Movie Max. If you have any questions about that, what would be appropriate for your child, just talk to any of your advisory teachers about that, and we're happy. You can register yourself for the classes or for those accounts on these links here, document, or we can help you get registered for those. Questions about that? Okay. They are really good resources too.
Have any of you used any of those?
Oh, good.
We use a splash learn,
Oh, great.
and I like it for English. I don't really care for it. But it's part of it.
Use Mystery Science a lot. That's been awesome. We did all the stuff for free and we even paid for it for a year. It was very reasonably priced. My kids loved it.
Yes, they have 3-year-long trials right now. So my top 5 favorite, by me, is code.org. It's free. It is computer programming lessons, and you can sign your child up for courses, not just like little games or activities. I would use the Express course for my students for elementary. But you can look and see which ones would be appropriate. Hour of Code are just like short little things, but the courses are longer.
Isn't there something once a year? I thought there's like a day of an hour.
Yeah.
I think probably we participated in it.
Yeah.
But that-
Yep. I really like code.org because it's trying to make computer science more accessible for underrepresented students like girls and young women and minorities. So I really appreciate that. There are hardly any female coders, computer programmers. My husband is a programmer and he's like maybe 10% of the people in that profession are female. So, and it's fun. It has a lot of logic, problem solving. That's probably my top favorite. And then Epic Books is also great. So I don't have a great website link for this one. It wants me to log in. For Epic Books, it's basically like a digital library where you can check out books. And there are also audio books on there. It's great for research projects, especially for younger students. I had class of first graders studying dinosaurs, and they all had their own dinosaur to research. And so they had audiobooks that went with their dinosaur of choice. And it was great. And the way this works is you can email any of us or Holly. Holly has an account and she'll add your student to her account, and then it's free to you during the school day. So it's a good one. You all right?
I need to cough.
Okay. Sorry. The other one I wanted to let you know about are podcasts. Gen Z Media creates these instructional podcasts and have some instructional materials. It's actually for all ages, but mostly for middle grades. The one my students really loved was 6 minutes. The podcasts are 6 minutes long. It was mostly for 5th graders that I used this one with. But it's like a sci-fi science fiction story. you'll wanna like preview, make sure it's appropriate for your child too. Young and Franklin, I used with third graders. It was amazing. It was really great podcasts. Okay, number 4, I have 2 more to go. Number 4 is the PhET or PHET interactive simulations for science and math. The University of Colorado Boulder put this together a couple years ago. I use mostly the math and like the physics. Like I did the electrical circuits one, we did electrical engineering. For math, I really liked the ones on fractions. So these are like manipulatives that you can do on a computer. This one was great for doing positive and negative numbers. Let's click it and then the kids can explore it, play around with it, show how to represent positive. And then it has like comparing and ordering. There are little lessons that go with it. Teaching resources and activities, each one. But really what I did was I used it to introduce like a new concept. And it really sparked kids' curiosity and had them thinking about questions like, oh, what is absolute value? And it was a great launching point to start a new lesson. And it's free. Oh, the electrical circuits is also fun because you can like start things on fire and run things. So I recommend that one. Okay.
You recommend destruction.
Yeah, that was
Clarifying.
In a safe environment.
in a safe way. And then you're like, why did they do that? Too many volts on your battery. Okay. Last one. This is actually a Google document. But it's a virtual makerspace that might be an option, like if they're like as a reward for finishing their other work or something to just investigate. It has a lot of links to different things. The music ones are amazing. Chrome Music Lab, Incredibox. We use this design squad from PBS a lot for like a makerspace ideas. But basically you provide your child with this link and it's here. I made it a shortened version, a bit.ly version of the link on here. And then they can choose different activities to do. That's it. That's all I have.
Questions for Liz?
Have any of you used any of those? Are you going to now?
Yeah. I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna send it off to some of my family.
Do that
We
for
should have
little
time
paper
for
life base.
Yes.
Can one of you pull up this? It's in the file, you said it's in the file. Otherwise I can, take out copies. I am going to talk about fidelity towards curriculum. And I'm old school, so I print out hard copy. But it's also available in electronic. My name is Joan Gianotti, and I guess I'm the senior teacher. I've been here, this is my 11th year at Raven. I previously taught 2nd and 3rd grade in public school. And I do both regular ed and special education. So that's my background. I'm gonna talk about fidelity to the curriculum, the different curriculums you use and how important that is. It's here. Most curriculums that we sign off on your ILPs are research-based, and there's a sequence, especially language arts and math. Those ones are you really need to stay in the lane and not veer off, because there's a lot of science that goes into it. If you open up the front covers of some of these, it is people with doctorates that are writing these things, and there's a ton of science behind the sequencing that needs to happen. I don't know, in my 11 years, people say, oh, we found this part boring, so we skipped it. And I'm like, yeah, should. Part of life is boring, and it's a life lesson for your kids that, you need to slog through it, or you're not gonna get better at something by avoiding it. And, what I do with my kids, and as a teacher, I just acknowledge that they don't want to do it, but guess what? And you can put it on your advisory teacher. We all agree to be the bad guy. You can say, Miss Joan, Miss Beth, Miss Liz said this cannot be skipped. This is important. If it were up to me, we'd skip it, but they're checking on me, and they said you cannot accept that word, grammar. I know there's the really boring stuff. And what if, like, especially like math facts and those grammar and all that, I tend, when I was teaching, or I recommend to parents, do some of that really boring stuff at the very beginning, and I compare it to flossing your teeth. That you do it every day and then when you go to the dentist every 6 months, it's great. If you don't do it every day and you go every 6 months, it's gonna be you're gonna sit in that chair a lot longer, because they're gonna have to pull the plaque off because you haven't been dealing with it. So there's daily grams, there's math worksheets, and you can switch it up. You can do some on computer, some on paper, some game-based, but you really need to not skip stuff, especially in language arts and math. Those are very sequential and grade level. But for everything, you should do everything that you all have teachers editions that come with your curriculums. And also follow the frequency and duration. Your kid may not need as long or may need longer, and just adjust it accordingly. Once you start teaching them that, oh, this is gonna take a little longer, or wow, he zipped through that. It was like osmosis. He just knew before I even taught him. And that's fine, but use it as a guide, and use I don't think we ever put it up, but Raven has the timeline, the guide for instruction. Use that too as a guideline, and
It's in your family folder.
Yep, it's family folder. If the kids argue, just say, look, Miss Hall put this in there. Everybody loves Miss Hall. Nobody wants Miss Hall to be mad at them. But, just put it back on us, put it on just the program requirements, and then the responsiveness, in education, we use the term check for understanding. And so you may have done the right things, you may have put in the right time, you may have done the lesson, and they still look at you with a blank face. And so then you have to regroup, do it again, find other resources. And that's all part of teaching too, that sometimes even the best prepared lesson might not work for your kid or kids, and you have to regroup and do it over again. But I can't emphasize enough that these curriculums that we have purchased, or you have purchased with Raven money, are sound, and they should be followed completely as much to your ability, with the amount of time they recommend, or more or less, depending on your own students. And then always do that check for understanding, and know that some weeks you're just gonna have to regroup and do it again, and other weeks you'll zip by, and that's kind of my spiel. Did I leave anything out? Okay. Any questions? The nice thing about homeschooling is it's flexible, and I'm all about that too. But I'm just a very sequential kind of gal. You can ask my coworkers. And there's a reason for it. It's not happenstance. And there's science behind it. These curriculums just don't pop out of air. They're long in the making, and they're aligned to standards and all that good stuff. So there's a lot in it. Any general questions? Or any struggles, any successes that you want to share with others, that I use this and this is fun, or I'm really aggravated with this?
I have lots of questions, but I don't want to hijack your cleaning
No,
session here.
yeah, this is time for questions on any one of us. You don't have to pick on me, you can pick on.
Okay, well, I'll just throw it out there. So we're doing Excelis. I've been following along with my app.
Yeah.
It seems like everything was on autopilot.
Mhm.
I had a little consternation with a history essay that my oldest boy was writing, because he just put a bunch of goop on the page and it gave him 110%, but it didn't actually say anything.
Really?
So I said, okay, no, let's start over with
Uh-huh.
no knowledge of outlining, and then, putting the ideas on there and turn. Anyway, we got it. He was upset with me because we're down to 103%, but so with the Excelis, that's all we're doing. And I guess in probably 4 days total time, they're done about 2 weeks worth of work. And I think I'm missing something. I haven't done-
Unfortunately, you have bright children.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Okay, I'm not sure they're mine.
It works
Yeah.
different for different, and the writing component in Acellus is new since I've been here. I think it's like an AI thing that they've added, so that they do have writing assignments now, but they're AI graded, so. It's great that as a parent, you're going in and looking over and doing.
What age is your child? The one that you said?
He's 16.
Okay,
He's
yeah.
sophomore.
What I was an English major, so I'm super big on writing. What I do for my high school students, I usually advocate that they take 2 to 4 quarters of an online writing program that is graded by a real life person. Home to Teach is the one I use the most, or they can go to the university and do Writing 111, but they need that direct instruction well, some do, some don't, some by 16 are set. And there's other ones where you can teach that are super solid too, but writing is a skill they will need for their whole life, whether they know it or not. My husband's an engineer, and his biggest complaint, he's civil structural, is that they get these brand new engineers out of college and even masters, and he said they can't write. And in order to get a job, you have to write a proposal, and then after they've done the engineering, you have to write inspection reports. And he said, I spend so much time writing, it's ridiculous. So, they can say, oh, if you're an engineer, you just need to know math and science. Nope, you gotta write. Every engineer writes. It's just part of the job. And same thing, I'm sure, with other professions. That's just one I'm familiar with, because he complains a lot about writing. And then the thing that my kids went through public school, and they did well, and they all graduated. I was shocked about how little writing they did, and they were in honors and AP and all that. And at a parent-teacher conference in high school, I said, hey, I'm not seeing a lot of writing, because they come to me for editing. And the teacher would say, yeah, I've got 60 kids. I can't give writing assignments because I don't have time to grade them. I'll give 1 or 2. What's that?
Those are really extensive for grading, huh?
Yeah. If you have 60 of anything, and if you assign a 5-page research paper, they were being very honest with me, and I totally got it. So that's where I think we're at an advantage in homeschool. Like the Home to Teach, it's for 6 weeks, and they have a live lesson every week. And they literally start at write sentences, and then they go up to research papers. They start very low elementary, all the way up to high school and pre-college, as far as getting you ready to write. But they have 6 weeks of instruction and lessons. So once a week, they have to sit it down at whatever time, 10 to 11 on Wednesdays. They have the lesson, then they get an assignment. And then they kind of go back and forth with the instructor. There's a rough draft, and then there's edits and all that. And then say Tuesday night at midnight or whatever, before the next class, they have to have their polished work submitted, and then they get another one. So in 6 weeks, they have 6 formal writing assignments, and that's just for 1 quarter. So if they do that all 4 quarters, that's 36 writing assignment. I see incredible growth. But I'm very honest. I say it's hard, and you will spend a lot of time, but the only way to get better at it is to do more of it. And That's my advice. There's other writing programs, and we are gonna have one, workshop voted just for writing.
Yeah.
But, so with Accelis, I recommend a writing program in addition to it.
Okay.
And, or if your kid's a natural reader, fine, if not, literature also, so.
And then also with the Celis, I have a lot of students that are recovering, doing great recovery or at risk of not graduating, and so a Celis is great for that. But some of the courses are more challenging, but if your student isn't being challenged, there's ways to adjust the rigor, but even maybe just looking at a more challenging Celis course.
Okay, I mean, that's not my, I guess my concern is, I mean, so long, if I do this at Celis and we give them the recommended courses or whatever, I can put them on autopilot and they would graduate without anything extra, without any field trips, is that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
Yeah.
what in game is. Do your kids plan to go right into the workforce, the military, college?
Or not the military, that's better ways to ruin your life.
Yeah,
There are special lessons in Celis. I don't know if you noticed those in the syllabus.
Yes, so, and then that was one thing, unbeknownst to me, once again, my youngest son wrote an email to someone, came back with those aren't required, but your parents can grade them. So if I wanted to grade them, I wouldn't know how to average those, and I told him, you know, if you've got straight A's, I don't see doing anything extra. I mean, we're phones down electronics off from 0900 to 1200. And if you're done early, get a book. We're gonna be doing something educational that doesn't involve electricity. Well, no, I guess computers don't.
lights, you need lights to read.
Right,
stuff.
yeah, so. But
Maybe not
no, but
internet.
not playing on the phones, and not
Yeah.
not watching
Yeah.
YouTube. So I think we've got that covered. And I'm following along on Celis, and I don't see doing anything extra if they are just.
The extra lessons are designed, if they didn't get it the first time around, and so it's like another way to teach it, or if they want a deep dive, like if it's on
Okay.
stegosauruses and they want to learn more about stegosauruses, then they can, it's designed as enrichment or intervention. It's kind of.
Okay, and that's what I told Gary, my youngest, is that if he starts to, you know, fall off, then maybe we'll start doing those because you need those to reinforce. And perhaps I could figure out a way to incorporate that for extra credit, but I don't know how I would go in and manipulate their grades.
I can help you with that.
Okay,
I had just learned about this too, so we're learning together. But my understanding is you can adjust their grade in Excel through our progress report by up to 3%. That's what was told me. So like if you are doing like extra work beyond Excel, like, you know, workbook or write lesson, we can adjust their grade up or down.
okay,
She recommended workbook Wednesdays. You don't have to use workbooks, but she said, you know, don't have them do Excel every day, but take one day where you actually write. Oh, I like that.
Okay.
So,
that's, yeah, because my oldest boy had already done anything that had been assigned to him. I can look on the app and say, yeah, he had some, he already did. I don't know how he's submitting them, but and I'm not worried about being remiss because I'm also teaching them each a trade. Well, they're learning the trade.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's what we do with our afternoons, but,
Oh, nice.
okay, so I guess I just won't worry. I just don't want to get, you know, to October 15th and I've got nothing.
and they do when they first log in, there's like, it's at the progress tab where it tells them like how many steps to do in a Celis for the day to be on track.
Okay.
So, do you have that?
Well, and he told me this morning that he's not getting stars for next week's work. So I said, okay, well, that's probably,
For next week's work.
So if you
Oh,
work
he went, he
he's
worked
working
ahead.
I guess.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it
Not
doesn't.
working ahead yet.
like I said, I didn't want to, I don't know if this is the venue for all of my questions.
Oh, no.
We're great.
sure everybody else probably got questions. I don't think.
We
No,
have
I
a
might
little-
have to do with the sauce also.
Sellis courses, it sounds like the kids get through them extremely quickly.
So
But like the guidelines for like, we're supposed to be spending hours on each, like,
Yeah.
at some point, is that a problem? Like, we're not currently using a Sellis, but for some subjects, like, in the future, I like, to be honest, I've had multiple friends try it, and they're like, yeah, it's super easy, the kids can finish the whole course in a month, and then you check that box if it's done, but
That does
But-
seem pretty among, but
Yeah.
everyone's.
it depends on the
different.
students too, because I do have students that struggle.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
So you guys don't care as much maybe on how many hours a day is spent on each subject, more than like what's being produced in the project samples of where they're at.
well, Accelis is an accredited program. So by law, if you finish an accredited program, if you finish it in half the time, it's just about finishing the program. My suggestion, if they're doing it that quickly, is to do a writing program and a lit program. But that's my jam.
Yeah.
And, or enrichment, or do an additional class. I love the idea of trades. I'm just not I'm 59 years old and and computer instruction just isn't my thing. Or even having kids in front of screens for long times. So, when I did homeschool, I homeschooled one of my 3 kids, and it was 6, 7, and 8, and, yeah, everything was booked, but I was a teacher and I felt totally comfortable, and, well, he did watch some videos. His writing program was, IEW, Institute of Excellence in Writing, and the first day of every week, he watched, a video on how to write, basically. And he thought he was getting away with it because he just sat back. He didn't have to hold a pencil. He didn't have to have paper. But that was the instructional video. And then he would write Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
but you think of it, because there's, and some of these online, well, I've taken online college courses. And some of it is just like how much you're willing to put into it, I mean, anymore, you can get through a semester of college in, a matter of weeks, just depending on how much time you're willing to put into it. And it doesn't mean necessarily that it's a poor quality program.
It might be your skill set too.
Yeah.
That certain things just come real easy and fast, where others you got to work harder for. Put me in front of a math class, be the turtle. But, if somebody asked me to write something, I have high schoolers, and, oh, I have a deadline in 20 minutes for this letter of recommendation. I'm like, I can get it to you in 15, because writing for me is no problem. But you say that to somebody who doesn't like to write, and they're like, I need a week to get a letter of recommendation. Oh, maybe not that much, but whatever. So there's something to be said for your natural abilities and aptitude and stuff like that.
And then what they're getting out of the course too. I mean, because if they're taking an Accelis course and they're just breezing through it and they're not getting anything from the course, then is it valuable?
It's not the right level for them.
Yeah.
And I know in high school, there were certain, and in our high school too, we had to take Alaska history. We had to take personal economics, which is like personal finance. We had to take a health, and I had to take physical science and biology, and then the others were electives, but I can't tell you what I learned in biology other than I have an A positive blood type. That's the only thing I remember in my sophomore year science class. Maybe I'm retaining more, but so not everything's gonna spark your learning or, stuff like that, but.
And that's kind of one of the neat things about Raven too, because there's so many social studies credits that are required and language arts credits that are required to graduate. But you can kind of choose what type of social studies courses, other than AK Study, Alaska History, that you need. So you can choose things that are.
Yeah,
more
I would
appealing.
guess psychology is a real common
Yeah.
one with high schoolers. Personal finance is another one. My kids, sociology was offered at Thunder Mountain, and they really liked that one. And so, yeah, there's, it's nice to have that variety and then, yeah, if your kids are college bound, you're gonna want the highest rigor, which is not a CELIS. We have kids that do a CELIS and go off to college, but there's certain other online programs that I recommend over a CELIS if I know a kid is going off to college, especially out of state. And then, and or UAA or UAS or UAF classes. The youngest I've had, well, I've actually had middle schoolers, but they were exceptional, you know, as far as aptitude. But it tends to be more juniors and seniors, but sometimes it's freshmen and sophomore, depending on their level. But that's another option that they have. And it's not common, but it's occasionally we'll have a student that has their associate's degree already by the time they graduate. And obviously their high school diploma at the same time. So, or one of the certificates, the welding certificate, the engine one, diesel. So there's lots of different options.
Yeah, so that was my concern. So, because I'm firm in my belief that there are more forms of education than mere academics.
Oh,
And so that's why, you know, we cook together, we cure and smoke meats, garden, build stuff. And so that's kind of more of the practical life skills, things that they'll need.
Yeah.
Because I think I use the Bagley theorem.
Never.
Anchoring a ship, and that's the only thing I took out of school. And so that's kind of where I'm going with these guys is, you know, most of this stuff, the algebra, things like written communication is big, and probably public speaking. I wrote that down as well. It's something I probably want to start doing. So I can do this and not just being lazy. I can do the bare minimum with this and then spend the rest of the time going out and they will still graduate.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And we have kids that are involved in Civil Air Patrol and Scouts, that do the sports at the different high schools. A lot of times that's why they're choosing homeschool is so that they're done, so that they don't have homework at night, or they're not in school until now it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon because it starts so late. And then, you know, have basketball from 6 to 10 or whatever their schedule is, so that they come to us to homeschool to get the academics out of the way so that they have more time for Scouts and what that involves, or Civil Air Patrol, or music. I had one that was a ballet dancer and she taught classes and she's still doing that. And she graduated 5 years ago. And so yeah, a lot of times it's you let them follow their passion. And yeah, the academics are just kind of the have-tos. But then they excel in whatever else, and that's how their career goes. Yeah, this is what society has decided, that we need to do X amount of this, X amount of that, you know, as far as academics. And for some, it's just, okay, I'll get her done, and others, they love it and want to do more and more and more, harder and harder and harder. That's fine too. Where others, it's just, tell me the bare minimum because I want to race motorcycles, or, you know, I want to, you know, whatever. There's all sorts of different careers. Yeah, but the fidelity to the curriculum, you don't have to worry if you're doing a CELIS, because a CELIS has done it for you. They make sure that all the bases are covered.
Okay.
As long as you follow their sequence, you are 100%.
Yeah, and I don't want you to think that I'm looking for the easy way out here.
No.
You know, bare minimum.
No, if you are spending your afternoons doing what you were saying, that is very enriching. That doesn't sound like bare minimum to me. It sounds like a perfect balance of academics and life skills.
And it doesn't have to be on your learning. All those other activities unless you want to be
Reimbursed, yeah,
held
or credit.
accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Good
so.
way to
so
earn credits too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I put merit badges as an elective for my kids and Scouts, because there's a lot to it. It's like a little learning unit each time they do a merit badge, and so that is a class, or has been in the past when they've earned credit for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have till November 15th to adjust learning plans, I think, right?
February 15th.
Not for first semester.
Oh, for
First-
first
first
semester,
semester,
yeah,
okay.
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 Yeah.
You're gonna be really happy with it. They would have recommended the online writing course. You're not gonna get any credit for it.
No, you can totally, and I would because we pay for it and they're a vendor, so Holly can even do the billing that you don't have to. It's home, the word home, and then the number 2 teach. And there's another one called Write at Home. Those are the 2 big ones
Yeah.
that I use.
Yeah, right at home, I don't think it's the students that I've had do that. It wasn't like an in-person meeting each week. It was just like,
live. It was more like modules. learning
yeah,
modules.
but I mean, but they had an instructor, but it just wasn't like the Zoom meeting type
Okay.
thing, but they.
Yeah, it's certainly. Yeah, and so they'll be edited and all that. I mean, it depends on your child's learning style. If they're okay just doing the module, learn it, and then they'll have someone else grading their work that does not share their DNA, which is another important thing. Whenever I graded my own kids' stuff, they're like, oh, you're so mean. I'm like, no, this is grammar. This is an expectation in society that you have subject-verb agreement. So you didn't do it, so I'm circling it. But,
They
it
do
is-
have specific dates for
Mhm.
the classes though.
Yeah, what I like, the drawback for me with Home to Teach is they start really early in August, with the beginning of the second week, so. And a lot of our families aren't ready to do that on August 8th or whatever. And so, but even if you only do 2 quarters, which is 0.5 English credit for your high schooler, that they're still doing 12 pieces of writing, which is very good. You'll see improvement and they have a variety too. If your student is more into fiction, they have writing the hero's journey, but they also have report writing, and so there's enough. And now they've added some lit classes in there too, so, and they're shorter, they're almost in between, so.
Okay.
I'm anxious for some families to utilize those lit ones so we can see how they go.
Practical writing is coming soon.
And usually it was sold recently to one of the teachers that taught it in it. And at the beginning, as part of the registration, and it might still be there, you had to submit a writing sample. And then at the end, it was usually at the bottom, they said submit a writing sample, or maybe I don't know. But you'd submit that and they'd say, don't have any help from your parents. I just want only the student. And then from that, they'd say, okay, based on this writing sample, here's the cluster of classes that are at your level, which is very good. And if you do have, like, say you have a high schooler that is still struggling to write sentences, it's great. It meets them where they are. That's what I like as a special education teacher, is it meets them where they are, and it doesn't take into, it's not so much your age, it's your level. So if that's where you are, they'll go, and nobody knows it, so, I don't think the cameras are on or anything, I think, it's not, it's very low key as far as if someone were struggling, it's no big deal, because they just meet, and for me, as an educator, you meet them where they are. You don't say, well, you're 16, you should be writing a 5-paragraph essay, blah, blah, blah. Say, okay, this is where you are. Let's start here and then hopefully have both. So. Any more questions?
That's all I have now. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. Any curriculums that you find fantastic, you want to recommend, or any homeschool strategies like we've talked about, like I use bins, or I use, the nice thing and again, elementary, when we talked about the calendar, it's also good, it's good for math, it's good for science, you know, to do like a little calendar every morning, like what's the weather, and then you can purchase these on Teachers Pay Teachers, the little home, there's a little math, science at the beginning of every day through a calendar. And I was always surprised at my kids, how long it took them to learn once a year. And so again, you're talking about all that. And anyway, but that could easily tie into the calendar, a year-long calendar. You know, the seasons and the weather, and so that's the science piece of it. And then there's all sorts of math things you can do with the day of the week. Anyway, so I miss that. Doing that and having popsicle sticks.
My kids each the golden planner that like my youngest can't fill out or anything, but it helped my oldest too a lot that they can, there's a little box, they can check that they did that and they know what's coming up. They know that like Wednesdays are our busiest days. We do all of our subjects and our experiments. Like for whatever reason, having it written down in their own book.
Yeah.
Saved us a lot of work.
We've been told by teachers at UAS especially that homeschool kids come to college so much more prepared for their own learning. Where, you know, out of the traditional high school there. My child did the exact same thing. She came back, she went to school back east and came back at Christmas and checked her grades and she goes, I got a D in Spanish. There's no way I earned a D in Spanish. She goes, I got, you know, A's and B's on the quizzes and she goes, I never turned in my homework, but he never asked for it. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And she goes, well, I'm just gonna email him and let him know that I did it and that he can raise my grade. I'm like, you do that, Mary. And she did. And he came back and said, the grade stands. It was up to you to turn the homework in. Well, you're not in high school. I don't ask for homework. It's stated on the syllabus. If you didn't, you know, email it to me or whatever, then you get 0 credit. That's kind of harsh. I'm like, or real world, I don't know. So, but that's the feedback we get from, especially UAS. They say, homeschool kids, you don't have to, you know, beat them as much or watch them. They're more ready because that has been part of the homeschooling experience. At some point, they kind of take ownership of their own learning and their own style and their own needs, whether they need to be in a quiet spot, whether they like doing it in the middle of the kitchen table with everything going on. They've learned a lot of that versus, you know, always being in the classroom and always having that structure and the teacher saying, okay, this is due today, and then nobody doing it. Okay, well, we'll extend it then and all that kind of stuff. So.
What are ways to encourage my son to use a planner on his own? Without me standing over him?
Electronic, I would say. Does he own a phone?
Yes,
I mean, I live on my,
yes, mine
okay.
too.
Yeah, it
I
always
agree.
surprises me, how there's all sorts of time management apps, or calendar apps. It's just a matter of exploring what works, and that might be an assignment, you know, you are this 16 or I'm not sure what your son is.
Middle school,
Okay,
and he's part-time homeschool. Yes, but he's supposed to be using planner for his class at school also,
right,
but
yeah.
I don't. As much as I tried to find out if that was like a requirement, because last year I bought him one and they never used it, and he, of course, it was gone. He don't care.
that's I know the paper planner with middle schoolers. But they're never gonna lose their phone or, I mean, that's their oxygen source. So if you can find an app, and maybe just take a little bit of research, you know, homework app or a assignment app or a planner app. And just say, you know, this year, this is the expectation. Let's look together. Let's explore 5 of them and you choose one. Choice.
Maybe make
It's
it part of
funny
his
because-
grade.
Yeah.
2 daughters, or my oldest daughter is all about the paper planner. I mean, she's still to this day, she's 32 years old and it just, she has to have her paper planner and for everything in her life. But yet then middle daughter, and I think the younger one too, just everything's on their phone. You know, I have my checklist I use and this is how I go shopping. So I think it might just be a matter of finding out what's gonna work for
And
you.
exploring,
Try
yeah.
different ones, yeah.
Meanwhile, I have my phone, have my wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the month. And
I have on my little notes thing, I have travel list and I just went up to Anchorage for the weekend and I, have my little check up. Remember that? I love it. I mean, that's what they do.
Or you could end up with the house with sticky notes all
Yeah.
over the
Oh,
place
I've
too.
got that too.
But it's a process.
It makes me wonder if if I'm the problem, he doesn't feel like he needs to do anything because I
It's
have
all
notes to
there.
myself
Yeah, I know.
everywhere.
Yeah. No, and I just, when my kids were in middle school and the great line I used in high school, especially the last 2 years, I said, do you want me to be your college roommate? And like, no, well then start doing this on your own because I don't want to go with you to college. So show me that you're ready to go up to college.
Right.
So, you throw that out there and that's a big threat.
Only got me so far with the older one. He seems to be doing fine, so.
Yeah, they amaze us at some point. They do.
Does anybody use Timberdoodle? Or for just Timberdoodle?
Yeah.
I was just gonna mention they have a little scheduler that's really nice online that I was exploring.
There's something like that, it would be available for. But
I
guess
know, I
this is unique to what
know.
they've purchased.
Yeah,
too.
you can like plug in all the different curriculum and then it gives you an
Wow.
overview and then amazing, and there's a checklist too.
Yeah, my kids, like I would do that with chores on Saturdays. I'd write down everything that needed to be done. I'd say sign up for 3. And then I'd say cross them off when you're done, so I know. And they love to do this big bold marker through there. I am done with sweeping. I'm done with it. Good. But there's satisfaction in that, crossing off that list.
So if you have Tinder, it's a great thing.
Yes.
I had a mom that purchased it out of town, so I'll have to
Yeah.
follow through with it. Oh, yeah.
Put in what you purchased and then it creates and times you want off. Just creates a
And
schedule for you.
Where does a
Here.
parent find this thing?
When they get their box of curriculum, it has their invoice and it has like how to set up the schedule.
Okay, all right, I will. Better do it now and think about it. Any more questions? Thanks for coming.
What's our episode next month?
Is this progress
report?
Because October
That's
15th.
next month for more exciting.
More fun. And that was, it's super easy to do for, progress report.
Yeah.
So
That's my other.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, that. A lot of people are gonna get tired of hearing from me here.
Oh, no.